If it were done, when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. But here, upon this bank and shoal of time, we jump the light to come.
That was great. I'm gonna have nightmares for eternity.
Thanks.
Ghosts, witches, demons, and necromancy. And I'm not just talking about witch talk. When James I took the throne after Queen Elizabeth I, he not only brought a new era to Renaissance England, but he also brought the fear and terror of the book he authored, Demonology.
Demonology!
Inspired by his fascination and fear of the supernatural.
Shakespeare was no dum-dum. If the king wanted spells and witches and spooky delights, Shakespeare was just the poet to give it to him. We'll start our segment on interactive table work with the beautiful and frightening tragedy of Macbeth.
There's so much more than just the text on a page when you read a piece of Shakespeare, when you read a piece of any dramatic literature. The real magic begins when two actors step on the stage and start to tell a story. Today we have a couple of great storytellers with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you're going to be playing.
I'm Blake Johnson, and I'll be playing Macbeth.
And I'm Michaela Hicks, and I'll be playing Lady Macbeth.
So we'll get started here. This is the first in our series of interactive table work. We'll be starting with the tragedy of Macbeth. So as we go along and visit all of these texts, I encourage you to have a complete works of William Shakespeare in front of you, either in a book form or perhaps just a single play. That way you can read along and figure out what we're talking about. So before we get into it, I think it might be helpful if our audience here has a little bit of backstory. Michaela, Blake, what happened right before this? So what I'm asking about, perhaps, could be summed up as the given circumstances, or the exposition. Now, if I say the word exposition, Blake, what am I talking about?
Exposition is like the forestory, what has happened before the scene, or like you're talking about a whole play, what's happened before the play started.
Great. And so, in thinking about this scene, Michaela, what's just happened right before you come on stage?
Well, I have completed my part of our grand master plan.
Which is?
Which is to kill the king.
Why are you killing the king? What? That's called regicide, by the way, but why are you killing the king?
Well, it's our plan to have Macbeth become the king. He's just become the Thane of Cawdor, and well, that's just not enough.
Great.
We want it all.
And so, you've just done your part of the plan, which was?
To drug the posits or the goblets of the two guards who are looking after the king while he's asleep.
Right, looking after Duncan. And then?
I did the dirty work. Just stabbed the king.
Great. And and we don't see that though, do we?
We don't.
So we got to hear about it now, right?
Yes.
Right. Again, you're going to see this as the series goes on. What we don't see, we hear about. Cool. Let's just read it.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark. Peace. It was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. I have drugged their posits, that death and nature do contend about them whether they live or die.
Who's there? What? Ho!
Alack, I am afraid they have awaked and 'tis not done. The attempt and not the deed confounds us. Hark, I laid their daggers ready, he could not miss them. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it. My husband?
I have done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
I heard the owls scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
I?
Hark! Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain.
This is a sorry sight.
A foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
There's one did laugh in sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, but they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
There are two lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen, when they did say, God bless us.
Consider it not so deeply.
But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing and amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad.
Methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep, sleep that knits up raveled sleeve of care. The death of each day's life. Sore labor's bad, balm of hurt minds. Great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more, to all the house. Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Was it that thus cried? Worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain-sickly of things. Go get some water, and wash this filthy deed from your hand. Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go, carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on, I dare not.
Firm of purpose. Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms with all, for it must seem their guilt.
Whence is that knocking? How is't with me that every noise appalls me? What hands are here? They pluck out mine eyes. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No, this my hand will rather the multitudinous seas in incarnate, making the green one red.
My hands are of your color, but I shame to wear a heart so white. I hear a knocking at the south entry. Retire we to our chamber. A little water clears us of this deed. How easy is it then? Your constancy has left you unattended. Hark, more knocking. Get on your nightgown, lest occasion call us and show us to be watchers. Be not lost so poorly in your thoughts.
To know my deed, 'twere best I did not know myself. Wake Duncan with thy knocking. I would thou couldst.
Great, you two. Fantastic work. So, Michaela, is everything going as planned?
No. Everything for me is going as planned. Like, if this was all just Lady M, like, it'd be done. But Macbeth is kind of going back on things. Like, he's kind of losing it a little bit, and she's like, get a hold of yourself, man. Like,
Yeah, and I love that point of view that you have as Lady Macbeth. Oh, I should have just done this myself, da-da-da-da-da-da. However, can I throw something at you, Michaela?
heck yeah.
You say, had he not resembled my father as he slept, I'd done't. What does she mean by that?
Well, thinking about just the play of Macbeth in total, there's kind of like this whole thing around ambition and how ambition is kind of a man's thing. you know what I mean? But it's obvious just from, starting at the beginning of the play that Lady Macbeth is far more ambitious than Macbeth is himself. She's also very sensitive. She feels things really strongly. And so she's not warrior-minded like Macbeth is, but she has goals in mind. But as far as the violence aspect of it, that's just where a line is crossed for her. So she sees the king. He resembles her father. That to her, that's the line that she won't cross.
Yeah, I think that's really great. So it kind of inextricably links these two. They'd have to have one another and able to accomplish the goal. It's kind of a joke in the Shakespeare world about like these two are the only people in all of Shakespeare that actually have a happy marriage. In a previous scene, we see you coming home from war, and it's just like, oh, baby, oh my God, I love you. And in many productions, they just hold each other, and they're just caressing one another through that whole first scene, because he's been at war, and you just adore one another. And then we watch the tragic unraveling of your relationship because of this kind of ambition that's turned in on itself in kind of a destructive way. So I think that's interesting that you talk about Lady M having to resort to other means as a woman in this culture in order to get what she wants.
Yeah.
She's not a warrior out there fighting and killing, but she knows that there's other ways to get what she wants. And that's what I think makes this so intriguing. I think there's something else at play here. And we'll talk about this later on with The Tempest, but this idea of the king being so close to God in this culture, right? There's even a term, the divine right of kings, meaning that the king was even the king was even above other humans, that the king in some ways was unimpeachable. The king was almost divine. And then for you to come in and kill a piece of divinity is a much, much more substantial thing to your soul than being on the battlefield and killing the enemy. So you're taking a huge, huge step here. What's the mood here at the top for you, Lady M?
I think she's elated. I think like, whoo, I got my job done. Like, I think she's like empowered, she's emboldened, like she's.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that for a lot of reasons. One, because that's based in the given circumstances. That's based in what we were just talking about. Can I ask you a question? What about this line? Hark, peace. What just happened there?
Well, what immediately comes to mind is that she's reacting to a sound that she heard.
And what is that sound?
The owl that shrieks, the fatal bellman, which gives the sternest good night.
Yeah, so the text kind of, you almost backtrack to the text is telling you what's going on. Yeah.
But from an actor's standpoint, I wonder if the owl shrieking, if that's an imagined noise, if that's a literal noise.
Great. I think that's it, and I think with a play like Macbeth that has all the spookiness and the witches and the apparitions, that's a perfectly logical question for the actor to ask. Talk to me about the meter.
Well, it is a short line.
Can you define what a short line is for us?
It's a line that isn't iambic pentameter. It doesn't have 10 stressed syllables in it.
So Blake, talking about iambic pentameter, how would that sound if you were to just give us the rhythm?
Yeah, it's like, it says like a.
Oh, nice. What does that kind of remind you of?
It's like dancing, like I don't know, like a heartbeat.
It's like a heart. That's lovely. I love that you're talking about rhythm, heartbeat, things like that. That's lovely, Blake. And so let's look at this together. That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold, right? What hath quenched them hath given me fire. There's only 8 syllables there. And then we get hark, peace, and just one I am. An I am being a foot of unstressed stress. We only get one. We got 8 missing feet in the next line. What does that mean? to the actor?
To pause there.
Yeah, because there's missing feet. What's going on in that pause?
She's listening, you know. She's well, you know, heart reacting to the sound piece. Quiet up. Let's see what that's about.
Right. So I love that you're talking about you come out elated. And then you hear something. Hark, peace. We get just what you said. It's like a horror movie. She hears something, and all of a sudden, the blood raises into her ears. She's listening with her blood as her heart beats inside of her eardrums. And so Shakespeare's telling us, you heard something. We all know what it's like when we hear a bump in the night. We get real quiet really quick, don't we? To see what it is. Great. And then you try to calm yourself. It was the owl that shrieked. Yes, that's all it was. Oh no, those are just my clothes on the chair. That's not a monster at the foot of my bed. It's the owl that shrieked. Let's go through this again, this opening bit. And I love it. She's elated when she comes in. And then something happens. Let's really saturate our choices here, if that makes sense. Go for it.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace. Was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. I drug the posits that death and nature do contend about them whether they live or die.
Who's there? What?
Great, great. I love that, Michaela. When we read this, we may not get all of that, but it takes us going back to it again and applying some of these techniques and methodologies in order to bring some of this out. I think it's also worth noting that Shakespeare never wrote to be read, right?
Yeah.
Blake, do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, because like he was like in a company, wasn't he?
Yes.
So like they wrote these regularly so they could be presented all the time, like
Yeah.
a cycle or something.
I think Shakespeare would be absolutely flabbergasted to know that 500 years later people were reading his work when it was meant to be performed on a stage. And so as we go through this, I think that's something to keep in mind. Read this out loud as you go, and some of the nuance will come out much better that way. So Michaela, in this first bit, you were talking about how you're just elated coming in, but it was really clear to me. What did you do as an actress to go in here and bring out all of that wonderful color and nuance?
Oh, yeah. Well, antithesis is the big winner of these first two verses here. That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. And so the antithesis of those two opposing words, really brings out the energy of the verse.
That's great. And it allows us as the audience to understand and hear it better too, doesn't it? That's great. So Michaela, in this first section, who are you talking to?
That's always the question. Since I'm on the stage by myself, an actor has to ask themselves whether they're talking to themselves, the audience, sometimes it's God,
Right.
And with this one, it's really an actor's pick between whether you want to talk to yourself, is she just kind of like recanting on the events to herself, or is she talking to the audience, is she sharing her victory to the audience?
And sometimes one way is more effective than the other, right? On stage, well, rather than telling you what I think, let's see it. Michaela, let's go through this first bit here, all the way up through The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. Let's go through mock their charge with snores. And I want you to do it as if you were doing it to yourself. You're speaking to yourself.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace. Was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternest good night. He is about it, the doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores.
Great, great. How did that feel?
It felt a little too inward.
Yeah. And if I were sitting on the back row, I don't know if I'd be able to even hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that you still did a great job. But now let's try it now with you using Blake as your audience member.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace. It was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternst good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores.
Great, great, great. I think it's worth noting that theaters around the country usually do this show around Halloween. And you could even see in what Michaela was doing that there was an intensity there, right? It seems like it's just perfectly fit for All Hallows Eve. Wonderful. I want to keep going. Blake, let's start down here. It's another great example of a short line. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I'd had done't. My husband. You get a foot and a half there, so ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. I have done the deed. Shakespeare's telling us right here, she introduces you. If we were on the Globe stage, she would probably have to turn upstage to watch you enter from the middle doors, covered in blood. So we get, had he not resembled my father as he slept, I'd had done't. My husband. The whole audience turns. Here you come. I have done the. It's just a horror movie. So Shakespeare is really directing this posthumously from the grave. Let's go from I laid their daggers ready. And we'll get into your section here, Macbeth.
I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss him. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done't. My husband?
I have done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
I?
Hark! Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain.
This is a sorry sight.
Foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
There's one did laugh in sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, but they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
Great. Wow, fantastic. So now we're hearing the different rhythms there. We hear, my husband, short line. I've done the deed. And did you hear them stay intense but fast and quiet? Didst thou not hear me speak? When? Now, as I descended, I, hark, short line. Who lies in the second chamber? Donalbain. It's like walking through the woods, and you hear crackle, 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 silence. Silence. This is just a beautiful ghost story that we still get to experience. What is going on, dude? What's going on for you when you come out?
He is like, I think he's like in shock, like PTSD or something. Like he can't believe that he just did it. If he wishes he could go back and undo it, but he knows he can't.
It's immediate regret almost.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I love that you bring up that element because he is a soldier. He's a soldier. He's been trained to go out there and fight for his country, right?
Yeah.
But this is a little different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me why it's different. Why what you do on the battlefield is different than what you've done tonight.
This is different because, like, on the battlefield, it's his enemy, and he's being led by it. Like he said, the king is like the vine. He's being led by him, but now he's killed, like, his commander. He's killed the king. So it's like it's kind of like a betrayal, I guess.
Why do you care? Why do you say there's two lodged together? What's the deal here? Did you not hear a noise? I thought one laughed in his sleep, one cried murder. What's the going on here?
Well, I'm telling her about when, as I was doing it, I thought I heard somebody, like, in the next room wake up, and one cried murder.
Wow. And so it's the rustling in the bushes again, right? I thought I heard something. And then she says, yeah, there's two people in there, idiot. It's totally cool. What's wrong with you? And then what do you say? Let's go there. There's one did laugh and sleep. Let's start right there.
There's one did laugh and sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, but they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
There are two lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say, God bless us.
Consider it not so deeply.
But wherefore could not I pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing and amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways. So it will make us mad.
Methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up raveled sleeves of care. The death of each day's life, sore labor's bad. Balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more to all the house. Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Caldor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Who was it that thus cried?
Good. Stops him in his tracks. It's almost, you get that midline stop there. It's almost like you poured cold water in his face because you were starting to spiral. What are you talking about here? What's the thing that keeps coming up over and over and over in the text?
Well, I know in the first part, he's like, they said, God bless us, and amen. And I feel like I was supposed to say amen too, but I couldn't because
What might that mean?
I'm not on their side anymore. It's like I'm afraid that I've lost, like, my connection. Like I've lost my soul almost. I can't say amen anymore.
Dang, that's scary. And then in this next section, what are you talking about?
He's talking about I murdered sleep. It's like I'll never have peace again, is what I think it is. Like this is always gonna troll me forever. And the rest of the house too, he even says. It's like peace is dead.
It's getting worse and worse for old MACBETH here. And it's great foreshadowing. What's foreshadowing, by the way?
It's kind of like when, it's kind of like a little Easter egg for something to come, you know? Something that'll happen later on in the play.
And so we're talking about sleep here, and you've murdered sleep, foreshadowing the end of the play when you just stop sleeping. Lady M coming in her nightgown, sleepwalking. This idea of sleep being gone forever. So in other words, you are living in night at all times. Spooky stuff. Great. Let's keep going there. Who was it that thus cried? Midline stop. Midline stop meaning a period, question mark, exclamation mark in the middle of a verse line, indicating a massive shift in thought. Let's go through this next bit and see how we can really shift thoughts on those midline stops.
Who was it that thus cried? Worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain sickly of things. Go, get some water, and wash this filthy witness from your hand. Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go, carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on't again, I dare not.
Infirm of purpose, give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt.
Good, 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 good. So if you're watching at home or in class, let's stop the video right now. Pick a chunk of text in here and find those midline stops and circle them. If you were going to use the section we just did, you could start with, who was it that thus cried? Question mark. Circle that. Once you've done that, go through with a highlighter or colored pencils, and I'd like you to color in each thought as a different color. Once you get through the end, try reading it aloud to your class, making big choices for each color that you've indicated. Great, now we're back. Hey, Blake. Great, so we're here now, and she bounces, heads off stage, and so what does that mean for you? Who are you talking to here?
Talking to myself or the audience.
Great, and so that's your choice here. Talk a little bit about what it means to have a soliloquy.
So like the difference in like a soliloquy and a monologue is, you want to compare it to like social media, for example. A soliloquy, a monologue is more like direct, so it would be like DMing somebody versus like a soliloquy.
Meaning it's meant for one person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like a soliloquy is more broad, and like, so it's like making a post, an Instagram post, so it's like everybody can see it. It's kind of like,
yeah. I think that's great that you're, and literally you're sharing with the audience. And that's one of the big words for this kind of thing, is you're sharing your thoughts. You're not just making a speech, which is a rather static event. You're sharing, which implies that you need a listener. And so when you're going through this, who is the audience to you, if you were to characterize them here, Blake?
You mean like within the world of the play?
Yeah. Now that you're talking to them about, how is it with me that every noise appalls me? Who is the audience to you at this moment?
Yeah. I guess like I would have to like create somebody. Like I guess for Macbeth it would be like a confessor or like a co-conspirator, somebody who was in the room with me, and I'm like telling them all this stuff.
Yeah. So it almost makes the audience complicit in your actions. They're along for the ride. If you don't mind, let's go from, if he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms, and hop into this soliloquy. Use the audience in that way. Characterize them just like you said. And let's use Michaela as our audience member here.
If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt.
Whence is that knocking? How is't with me when every noise appalls me? What hands are here? They pluck my eyes out. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No, this my hand will rather the multitudinous seas and incarnadine, making the green one red.
My hands are of your color, but I shame to wear a heart so white. I hear a knocking at the south entry. Retire we to our chamber. A little water clears us of this deed. How easy is it then? Your constancy hath left you unattended. Hark, more knocking. Get on your nightgown, lest occasion call us and show us to be watchers. Be not lost so poorly in your thoughts.
To know my deed, for best not to know myself. Wake Duncan with thy knocking. I would thou couldst.
Fantastic, y'all. Fantastic. There's an interesting feeling through this. Don't you agree, Michaela?
Yes, there is an interesting feeling. The knocking is kind of just, like, I think it's freaking both of them out. Like, it's kind of like waking them both up from, like, it's waking, I think, Lady Macbeth up from, like, this pumped upness of, like, yeah, I did it, you know, to being like, oh, okay, it's still happening. Like, we gotta rid ourselves of the evidence. And he's kind of being woken up and being like, oh, this is really real,
We've all had the phone ringing when we're trying to make dinner. We don't know quite what to do.
Throughout the entire scene, it's kind of like a chase.
Yeah.
Really, just like to me, it's a chase of the mind. I'm trying to reel him in, and he's trying to escape.
Ooh, that's a great image.
And I'm, just like trailing behind him, being like, "Come on, we already did it."
Yeah. Where are you at this moment of this?
I kind of pictured like in some kind of foyer, and it's like large and echoey and dark.
Oh, snap. Okay, echoey, dark. So that means there's people?
In other rooms.
So what does that mean to our performance?
Well, this is some pretty damaging stuff we're saying if it gets out. So, like, we being aware that there are people surrounding us, like, we're keeping things on the DL.
So what does that mean to your urgency and intensity?
It heightens.
Oh, yeah.
It heightens the urgency, it heightens the intensity. What does it do to your volume?
It hushes.
So you're having to play against opposites the whole scene. Your emotions are at 10, but you've got to stay down here at a 2 in order to not get caught. Let's do this. Let's take everything that we learned. Let's stand up and let's get after it.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace. It was the owl that shrieked. Fatal bellman which gives the sternst good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. I have drugged their posits, that death and nature do contend about them whether they live or die.
Who's there? What? Ho!
Alack, I am afraid they have awaked, and 'tis not done. The intent and not the deed confounds us. Hark, I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss him. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it. My husband.
I have done the deed. Didst not thou hear noise?
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
I.
Hark! Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain.
This is a sorry sight.
Foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
There's one did laugh in sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, but they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
There are two lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hanged man's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did cry, God bless us.
Consider it not so deeply.
But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing and amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad.
I thought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care. The death of each day's life, sore labor's bad. Balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more to all the house. Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Caldor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Was it that thus cried? Worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain sickly of things. Go get some water and wash this filthy witness from your hand. Why did you bring the daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go. Carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on't again, I dare not.
Infirm of purpose. Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. It is the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If you do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt.
Whence is that knocking? How is't with me that every noise appalls me? What hands are here? They pluck out mine eyes. Will all great Neptune wash this blood clean from my hand? No. This my hand will rather the multitudinous seas in Incarnadine, making the green one red.
My hands are of your color, but I shame to wear a heart so white. I hear a knocking at the south entry. Retire we to our chamber. A little water clears us of the steed. How easy is it then? Constancy hath left you unattended. Hark, more knocking. Get on your nightgown, lest occasion call us and show us to be watchers. Be not so lost in your thoughts.
To know my deed, 'twere best not to know myself. Wake Duncan with thy knocking. I would thou couldst.